Hi everybody, Captain GL1 here, and today's theme is comic books that come with your action figures. And in this case, this is Psylocke, the action figure. All right, these are all from around 2005-ish. You get your action figure, you get an accessory, and maybe you'd even get a body part to build a figure. And in the back of it would be this comic book. So this series here, so you would build, it would come with different parts. You'd build this gross character there, okay? Never cared about that. Don't even know what it is. Don't care. But what I did like is I like the Psylocke figure. So I got my Psylocke figure, and this comic book has been sitting in this plastic packaging for nearly 20 years, and I've never looked at the comic. But so I found a stack of these, and I saved them in the plastic like that for a really long time, and eventually I realized, I just don't have room to store all this plastic, so let me take the comic books out. And I still have not even read the comic books. So, but let me show you what I have here. So here is, and if you've seen any of the other Hulk episodes, you've seen this. This is the gray Hulk. This is the original coloring of the Hulk. Before, what happened is in the printing, it accidentally came out green, and they decided to make him green. But the original intention was to have him gray. And these figures are Toy Biz. All of these figures are made by Toy Biz. They're really high quality, very well articulated. And, if you've seen this Hulk before, he can cross his legs and sit cross-leg style. He's got excellent hips. He's got even some fingers that can bend. So he's got a thumb that articulates, and he's got an index finger that moves separately from the other three fingers on his hand. And his wrist is actually, this is where his hand moves, and then his wrist turns, and then his hand bends in here as well. So you see that, all that articulation, the shoulder. So just the head moves in all directions. So this is just really indicative of, what was being made by Toy Biz in around the 2003 to 2006 era. I don't know which comic book went specifically to him, but this is one of the comics, and it has Storm from the X-Men on there. And what you have here in the back is, you can see that you buy all these guys and you can make your very own Galactus. And so that's exactly what I did. So I know the Hulk, and he came with a green variant. I didn't get the green variant. I like the gray one because there's so many green ones. So, there's only but so much money to spend, and so, I don't even know if I saw the green variant at the time. It was a long time ago. So that's the Hulk. Another figure that you needed to get was Deathlock. So Deathlock is basically a reanimated zombie given a suit by S.H.I.E.L.D. that gives him superpowers. And then he had a comic book. So there's the Deathlock comic book. And I've never read it, couldn't tell you what's in it. And honestly, I collected comics for like 1 year in my life. In my senior year in high school, there was this kid new to the school, and he started a comic book club, and I liked him. And I joined his comic book club, and I started buying comics. And I read a bunch of X-Men, like 226 all the way to like 326. And I started collecting some Hulks and some other, characters that I liked. And they started raising the price of the comic books. They improved the quality, though. The paper was better and everything. But they started raising the price of the comic books to where one comic cost almost as much as an action figure. And I reevaluated the situation, and I thought to myself, I really don't care that much about the comics. I like the toys. I always like the manipulation of like something real. Now, I understand that a lot of people, what's real is in their head, and I really admire that. I can't put that down at all, where, people play video games and their toy is their brain, to be able to manipulate that the imagination to read a comic book, and that is your toy, and it's that's a toy as well. You're pondering it, thinking about it. I just like the physical thing, so I look at my action figures and I ponder them and I fantasize about who they might fight and stuff. So I stopped buying comics and I put my money into the toys. Now, this is another one of the X-Men. All right, this is Nightcrawler, and really well articulated. You see the feet articulates, and even the heel has this little toe in the back, and the tail moves around. His fingers individually articulate. Now he only has 3, but these 2 articulate individually, and his head moves all around. And as you can see, he's got the double knees. He can really get his legs wide, and then twist his waist and bend, and his head bends all around. So he's just got a tremendous amount of articulation. Actually, I should go over the Deathlock figures. Cool too. He has you could bend his hand in the middle, and the gun here, it's a laser. It's some kind of special laser that S.H.I.E.L.D. gave him. It's got like a rubber tube, and then it has a peg in his hand, and then there's a peg hole on the gun, and then that peg's in there, so he can hang on to that pretty well. But double elbows, good shoulder articulation, good movement in there. The double knees, great ankles. He's got the side. He can move his foot side to side. The hose does come off, and he can drop the gun like that just happened. He's got the toe. He can bend the toe. See that? Now that's something you don't see on Marvel figures anymore. You do see it on McFarlane's DC figures, however. But these move really easily. The paints are very nice, very shiny. So that's pretty cool on him. Well, Dr. Xavier, the head of the X-Men, and he, has psychic abilities and can read people's minds and make them do things. And so he came with what happened is his powers to use his brain inhibit his ability to walk. So his brain became so powerful, but the sacrifice was he's in a wheelchair. So he wheels around, and then this helmet comes off. This enhances his ability. He built this system because he's a genius, and he built this system to enhance his psychic abilities. You see that up close there. Okay. And he has excellent articulation, and even look, his hands have articulation. He can bend his fingers. He can wave to you. So he's waving, hey, how are you doing? Come on over, Wolverine. Well, Wolverine's not here right now. Okay. But, he's got the double knees, and he's got the toes and everything. So, and his feet, there's little peg spots on the chair. So it pegs in, and so he won't fall out. And, so that's Dr. Xavier's chair. And I think it has a bit of a spring. Yeah, it has a spring motor. You can pull it, and you'd have to keep cranking and pull it, and it'll zoom forward. It's got a spring-loaded motor in there. All right. I don't know where the comic is on that one either. Actually, it could have been the other X-Men one that the Hulk is on top of. Doctor Strange. All right. So Doctor Strange, has made a big showing, in the new Marvel Cinematic Universe. I didn't know much about Doctor Strange then until the newer movies, and didn't care. But now, he's pretty cool. And what's neat about this figure is his cape is rubber. So it's like a real flexible, rubbery plastic. I don't think it's rubber from a rubber tree, but it's like a rubbery plastic, and that's pretty neat. And he also has the articulated hands, the wrists, and everything. So that's that fellow, what he can do. And then he's got the double knees and everything. So they all have that. Okay, they all have the waist, the double knees, and everything, the fingers. But some are better than others. So we're going to see one today that's really something. All right, so Black Bolt. Black Bolt is a character. Here's the comic. He's taken out Daredevil. So and these say not for resale. So that's because they came with the toy. I have the two variants. It's a whiter, cleaner Deadbolt, and then just kind of I'm sorry, not Deadbolt. It's what's his name? Yeah, just lost his name in my head. Black Bolt. Black Bolt. Okay. Not a character I read about. Again, but I read up on him. His power is to manipulate electrons, and he can send out a burst of electrons as powerful as a nuclear blast. So I know at one point he was living on the moon, so he wouldn't do any damage. He can focus that power through his hands. He generates it, I think, through his voice and through his brain. And so there's the variant, there's the sort of the dirtier Black Bolt, and then the cleaner one. Okay. Got a little brain freeze there, huh? All right. Now, War Machine. War Machine, we've seen him in the Iron Man cartoons and movies. And then here's the comic book for War Machine. I am surprised that I actually have kept all the pieces to this all these years, because I really wasn't an Iron Man fan all these years until, again, the new movies. I wasn't a War Machine fan. But, a lot of times when you collect, there's some people that collect things and they know it's all intentional. And they know I'm going to, one day I'm going to keep this and keep everything together. And sometimes I really didn't do that. I'm just like, I don't know, I wanted to make the Galactus figure. So it's like, well, I got to get what I got to get Galactus. And I don't really care about War Machine. But this is a really cool War Machine figure. So you have the missiles that he launches, and they come off. Okay. And then you've got his machine gun, and then he can, well, first of all, this is going to fall probably. You have his strip of, M60 bullets, rounds. And then, when he's firing, that can come out. So now he's not firing. This can tilt back. So, and even this can kind of move, and it can come off, and he can hold it like a handgun. It has a place for him to hold in his hand. You can detach it here. In fact, this whole backpack comes off. You can take that off, and then here you can take that out of his hand. And then he can bend his fingers, and he has his wrist rockets. And of course he comes with all the full articulation. And these figures were about $9, $8.99 back then. So you would get the figure, you'd get the comic, and you would get a piece of Galactus to make a big old Galactus piece. And this is not the Galactus that I interviewed early on in the show many months ago now. Well, I'd say, probably, maybe 10 months ago. I interviewed Galactus, and that is this Galactus here, much bigger, and he talks. So he, consumes planets, and this is the first Galactus that I got, is the one that you made. And this is, again, pretty impressive. If you look at what you get with a Build-A-Figure today, you don't get anything this good. They're much smaller. This has the double elbows. It has, you see that? You see the double elbow in there. It has the shoulders. It has the bicep articulation. It even has the double knees. And it has a ratchet, so it clicks. You do have articulation in the hips, but because he's wearing a skirt, I don't know, a tunic. He can't move his legs as much. He does have the articulation of the head. It doesn't light up or talk, but it twists. You have that joint right in the center. And again, it ratchets. So he's just really neat. And he even has the hands that move. He can move his thumb a little bit too. So he's got a little bit of a thumb movement in there. So, all right, so that's the Galactus. You would make, get all this, and you'd make Galactus. Okay, so that is this set of, you get all that to build Galactus. Okay, and I have another one, and I'm going to pause this video, and I'm going to set that up for you. All right, everybody, I'm back, and the next group of action figures, I don't have a comic with them. They didn't come with a comic, but what they came with is a piece to make a figure that I really wanted because I just thought it looked really cool. These are all part of Image Comics, which is an independent group of artists and writers got together and were allowed to create their own comics and own the characters, and they still were a subset of Marvel, but they were allowed to do their own thing. And one of those creators was the creator of the Spawn series, which, we've touched on a little bit, in the episode with that, where he was talking about She-Spawn and Violator and comparing the 1990s figure to the newer ones. So this is one of the newer Spawn figures. And, we'll go into Spawn later, but Todd McFarlane is probably the most famous of those people that created Image Comics, and he now is making all the action figures for DC, the Batman, Superman, and all those, and those are excellent figures, and I have a lot of them, and I will be showing you those in the near future. So these characters I don't know a lot about. I tried to read up a little bit on them. There actually is not a lot of information that's easily accessible, and honestly, I don't really care. I really wasn't interested in these characters. I was interested in the piece that I had to get to make this big character, and these were clearance. So, when I got them almost 20 years ago, that's all I cared about. So this is the Madman. And he often looks different than this. When I looked him up, the toy looks like this, but the character in the comics does not look like this. So this was some artist's design. And, he's just, I don't know, kind of a boring character to me. He's got enhanced strength. But as far as an action figure, he's got the double knees and the double elbows. And somewhere there's a gun, but I don't know where it is. And I didn't really care. So anyway, that's him. The other figure is the Super Patriot, and he's got like a claw-like hand. He's got a gun for his other hand. It's kind of weird looking. Looks sort of like an X-Men type of character, kind of like Cable. But again, don't really care about him. I guess he's super patriotic, just like Captain GL1. Perhaps. This guy, Ripclaw, he's actually good, even though he looks bad. What's cool about Ripclaw is each one of his claws move individually. So you can manipulate his claws thusly. So that's really neat. And he's a cool looking figure, kind of like a Japanese demon looking character. So that's pretty cool. This one here, Witchblade, and she's good, and she's got superhuman strength. And again, you just don't find a lot on very easily on these. You go look at the fan Wikipedia. It doesn't say a whole lot, but anyway, she's good. Image Comics, if you're into it. Okay. This guy, Savage Dragon. Now, he's neat. Now, he needs to do some squats. Obviously, his legs, very spindly. Needs to do some inner thighs. Looks like he has some sarcopenia going on there. Didn't do squats early enough in his life, and now the muscles sort of deteriorated away. So, he could definitely benefit from, some side lunges and things like that. But as far as the action figure goes, here's the coolest thing. Individual fingers that bend on a hand that's really not that big. So he's got a thumb that can bend in the middle, and he's got the fingers each bend individually in the middle, and he can make a fist. And what I really like about this is that you don't have to worry about having a hand that you have to store somewhere, that you remember it goes to Savage Dragon and you have to keep it somewhere else, and then you're like, oh, where's that hand? I want to have him make a fist or something. The hand can do it all. And again, this is like 18, 19 years ago, these action figures, they were making them. So it's not like everything gets better as things get newer. No, they knew how to do really cool stuff then, and they're not doing it now. Another thing on Ripclaw, he's got these shoulders that extend all the way backwards like this. So it's got that extra articulation in the shoulder. Now, these figures were only about $9 each. A figure like this is like Ultimate WWE Ultimates, and those are $32 to $37, and they have that shoulder articulation. So, it's really not even to scale as far as you can look at inflation or whatever, that a figure is, costs 3 times as much. Not really. A lot of figures still cost about the same as what they cost then, or double, but you don't get the same for your money. So it really isn't about money. It's about design. It's about what you're giving to your customers. Now, every one of these figures came with a piece to make this guy, Pitt, and that's the character I wanted to make. Now, this is just a really cool action figure. Look, he's got individual fingers that move. Turn that wrist, the wrist turns, the fingers bend, they even bend in the middle. Okay, he's got the finger joints. I mean, on a big hand like that, you might expect that, but not on that, Savage Dragon. But you see, he's got all the individual, he's got finger joints in there. He's got a thumb. No, the thumb doesn't turn. Okay, but the wrist turns. He's got the bicep joint. He's got, his knees bend. He's got that joint in his torso that ratchets, and he turns. And Pitt's a really powerful character. Pain makes him stronger. So people often wonder, can Pitt fight the Hulk? Because the Hulk, the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. Pitt, the more he gets hurt, the stronger he gets. Can the Hulk hurt him fast enough to where Pitt would be taken out, before, like he couldn't get strong enough to compensate for Hulk's strength increase? And, most of what I read is, in the end, yeah, Hulk would eventually win. But Pitt's a really cool character. I mean, it's really heavy. It's probably, a good 2-pound figure. And, a piece of that came with one of these, and it was only like $9. And you think about what you get with Build-A-Figure nowadays. I mean, when you get a Marvel Build-A-Figure now, it's like you got to get like 10 or 11 figures. You get something that's just a little bit bigger than a regular figure. You're looking at spending, $20 to $25 a figure, and you're having to spend $250 instead of make an extra figure. This, you get 6 figures. You're looking at like under $60, and you make a giant figure like that. I mean, so you really were getting a lot more for your money then. So again, I resent really a little bit what's going on with Marvel and the overpricing and under-delivering on what you get. So, I'm going to keep going on record as kind of saying that. And they need to get their act together and start delivering more to their customers for what they're paying. I mean, if you look at what McFarlane toys, when I start doing McFarlane toys and you see what you get for $20, and oftentimes they're on clearance, you're getting a bigger figure with better articulation. All right, now I have some action figures here that did come with comics, but they did not build a figure. So you've seen, if you've watched the Thor and Conan Home Improvement episode, which you probably didn't, this is one of the Thors, okay, that came with a comic, and this Daredevil came with a comic. And here is a Daredevil comic. This is the comic that came with the Daredevil figure. How do I know that the Thor is part of it? Because it's on the back. So there was that's the Thor and I don't know where the comic is for the Thor. Sometimes I sold them, sometimes I just put them somewhere. I haven't even read these comics, so not that interested in them, but I like the action figures. This Daredevil does not have a lot of articulation. He doesn't have double elbows. He doesn't have double knees. No, he does have. You can turn it, and his ankle moves. His head moves, but he doesn't have shoulders that move in all directions. He did come with nunchucks, and you know what? I don't know where they are right now. I'm sure they're somewhere. You take, sometimes I would take things and I put them somewhere so I don't lose them, and then I don't remember where they are. The Thor figure came with a hammer, and I used a twist tie to put the hammer around his waist so I don't lose it. This Thor came with hands that bend, so he can, in theory, grip the hammer. He can, but it doesn't grip real well, so you can drop it. That's why I zip-tied it, not zip-tied, but twist-tied it on. He doesn't have the double elbows, but he's, got good musculature. It's just a nice figure. He's got pretty good articulation, and he does have the toe joint, and he's got the foot that angles both directions and back and forth as well. All right, over here we got X-Men figure. We have Colossus, one of my favorite figures. I like Colossus, or I like his powers. He's big, he's strong. The action figure is well articulated, but he does fall down really easily. He's so articulated that the joints are a little bit loose, and he kind of falls over a bit too easily. But he's really, he's fun to move around. He moves around really well. His head moves. I like Colossus's powers because I like to go walking about. Right? I like to go into the jungle and stuff like that. You might see me going through the tropical jungles and getting bit by fire ants. Well, if I had Colossus's powers, I could make my skin organic steel, and I wouldn't have to worry about anything biting me, and then I'm itching for days or weeks. So it'd be really great to have Colossus's power. Some people, want Wolverine's powers because you heal fast. I really would just rather not even get hurt or bitten or anything. But anyway, that's my Colossus, and he has a little bit of the extra, see that? A little bit of an armpit joint that allows him to go out a little bit further. So, they throw something unique in with these action figures. They do something a little bit unique on each one, like they're trying something different to see, what's cool, what they can get away with, like is it a finger that bends or something like that. So I think, that's kind of like what I do here, right? Something different every show, maybe try a little different effect. Here's another Hulk, Maestro Hulk. If you've watched my Hulk show, the one where I'm walking with the Hulk, with War Hulk, and when I was a Megazord and I'm doing the show on all the Hulks from 2003 to 2006, you might have seen Maestro Hulk. It did come with a comic. So, and if you bought all the pieces, look, you could make that giant dude right there. You'd pay like $9 an action figure, and you get the parts to make that. Now, I didn't do that. I didn't get all the figures in order to make that. I didn't care about who that guy was, and he's an X-Men bad guy, and you know what? It's escaping me, even though it starts. Oh, Apocalypse, right? It's Apocalypse, and he's gigantic. So this Hulk, cool joint, lats. Look at his big lats. He's got a lat joint that extends in and out. So that's unique. See that, how that can move? His hat does come off. He can curl his hand into a fist. He doesn't have individual fingers, but he can make a fist so he can grip things. He's got the bicep joint, but really the lat joint, such a cool thing. He's got the double knees, he's got the toes, he's got the wrists, the ankles that move in all directions. So, and his head, look at his head articulation. He can really move his head up and down. Yes, he can. So, Maestro Hulk. Okay. If you like Beast from the X-Men, here's the Beast comic that came with Beast. So this is a really cool beast. He's got hands that bend, the wrist, all those typical articulations, really good. He's got actually the old DC hips, the DC toy comic hips, not like the ball joint, but more like the hinges and the sides. So he can really go very wide. Okay, but a lot of like DC action figures back around this time, 2003, 2005, they had this hinge joint for their hips versus Marvel, which had usually a ball joint. But not always, because on that Hulk episode, I also show that some of the Hulks had the ball joint and some had the hinge. Here's what's cool on him. He bites. So his mouth can open and close. It's not a huge difference, but see, mouth open and mouth closed. So that's kind of neat, Something, again, they give you one little different thing. All right, and lastly, Alpha Flight. Okay, Canadian mutants. Even the Canadians have mutants, and this is Sasquatch. And all right, this has a lot of articulation. He's got the extra shoulder joint in the back. He's got fingers that they don't bend in the middle, but they do. He does have individual fingers that do move. So he can point a little bit with a little bit of a crooked finger, but that finger moves individually. He's got the hand. He can move his hand like that. So he's got that articulation. He can turn his whole arm from the bicep joint. He's got the waist joint, and he has the ball joint hips, not the hinge. All right, but he's got the double knees. He's got the feet, the ankles that move in all directions, and he's got the toes. So Sasquatch is really, and again, a lot of head movement, lot of articulation on this figure, and he's big, he's a pretty tall figure. Here he is next to Maestro Hulk. He's taller. Yeah, there you go. Let's see. It's about, if you take Maestro Hulk's hat off, he's probably about an inch taller. And he's bigger than Colossus significantly, so quite a figure, what they were offering back then. And he's heavy. He might be a pound, So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, the comic book inspired episode and Build-A-Figure from, 18, 19 years ago. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. See you soon.